Thyroid imbalances are rampant, and there are many reasons for it in our modern world. Thyroid is just another system that is intimately linked with insulin resistance and metabolic health. Yet, so many doctors overlook it. So many practitioners, health coaches, whatever we are overlooking that intimate connection and wondering, why is the thyroid not improving? Well, today we're going to talk about that. So, welcome back to Metabolic Health Solutions, where we empower health practitioners and self healers to address the root causes of metabolic imbalance. I'm Dr. Ritamarie Loscalzo. I'm the founder of the Institute of Nutritional Endocrinology. And today, my guest and I are going to do a deep dive into the interconnection between thyroid disorders and blood sugar and provide support to practitioners and health seekers alike who are ready to optimize thyroid function and live with energy, strength, vibrance, and joy. So I'm here today with Divya Gupta. Hopefully, I said your name right.
Perfect.
Perfect. Yay. A board certified holistic nutritionist and wellness practitioner. And she helps ambitious professionals, which she came from that background and knows a lot of those, create healthier futures through personalized functional nutrition. Having overcome her own health challenges, like many of us, she had her gallbladder removed and Hashimoto's while she balanced corporate demands. So she understands the limitations of conventional healthcare. When not working with clients, Divya enjoys hiking, cooking, yoga, and traveling. She lives in San Jose with her husband and two children, including a newborn baby that she welcomed in March 2025. So, welcome, Divya. I'm so excited that we're here and we can talk about this extremely important topic.
Thank you, Dr. Rita Murray, for having me. And it's such an honor to do this again with you.
I am so excited. I was on your summit. I think it was just what,
Yes.
6 months ago? I can't even remember.
Yeah, it released last April. So just a year
Oh,
ago.
okay, so it was over a year ago. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we're here again, and we're going to talk the same topic because I think it's very important, and
Uh,
practitioners are ignoring it. So most practitioners don't connect the dots between thyroid function and blood sugar and metabolic function. So how would you explain the blood sugar regulation connection with thyroid health?
mm, Yes. So this is so fascinating about a body, right? Nothing works on its own and everything is interconnected. And no system in a body just performs just one function either.
That's
It's like
right.
a show off. It's very multifaceted. Everything does multiple functions. I like to use an analogy of like dance partners, your thyroid and your blood sugar. Think of them as dance partners, and if they work well, if they know the steps, they know who to lead, when to lead, and it's smooth and it looks very graceful. But when its thyroid is dysregulated or your blood sugar is dysregulated, looks like dance partners who have forgotten their steps, they stumble and then fall. Somebody falls over. And that's exactly what's happening inside, I think, millions of people around in just the US or across the globe. And they have no idea why, hey, why am I feeling so terrible? Picture and this random person named Sarah or whoever who crashes at 2 p.m., and craves sugar like crazy. And but a doctor is like, your thyroid is fine, it's all good. The person, the Sarah, doesn't realize that your sluggish thyroid is like a dimmer switch on your metabolism. So when your cells, everything, even your cells are not responding as well to insulin. I know you talk, you're all about that, how important insulin is to blood sugar regulation. So your blood sugar might be fine, but your thyroid is sluggish. Even if it's sluggish, it doesn't have to be you have hypothyroidism, it's sluggish. Now your cells start not respond as well to insulin, and then you start getting blood sugar dysregulation, those crashes after meals. So that's what it is. So glucose stays longer in your blood, and then the cortisol also goes up. It's very stressful for the body, and then that could also prevent your thyroid from working well. So just like a vicious cycle that keeps going, and nobody's looking at it, just looking at blood sugar or they're just looking at thyroid, but hey, it could be
The
both.
connection is so it's so vitally important. And
Mm,
we don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. And a lot of people go
mm,
in for thyroid problems. And you're right, they just incorrectly measure, and we can talk about that in a moment, but they
yeah.
incorrectly measure just TSH and say, oh, your thyroid's fine, even though the person is just obviously struggling with thyroid. But given that 93% of the population, according to the most recent surveys, is blood sugar imbalance, insulin resistant. Then, if we don't look at that as a contributing factor to thyroid, then we're in trouble. And like you said, if somebody is low thyroid, just slapping on some T4 is not going to help them because we're not addressing the blood sugar. So we have to address both of these, right?
Absolutely. And, I grew up in India, where I grew up in a vegetarian household primarily. And, eating a lot of bread, rice was just part of the lentils was a lot of culture, very healthy, but just a very carb heavy. And, when my thyroid got sluggish, you wonder why I was having those young 20 something energy crashes, where your carbs are not converting into energy. They're actually just getting stored as fat. And it's just happening around across the globe. That recent statistic that you mentioned, which 93, which was 88% a few years ago, and you would hopefully it would go the other way, but it went the other
It
way.
went the wrong way. Yeah, and their criteria for measuring wasn't even that stringent. And if you used my criteria for measuring, it'd probably be more like 98% of the population is metabolically unwell. And we need to address it, right? And there's a lot of attention on it now. I've been talking about this for decades. And, even online, I started doing courses on it for people to help them overcome this back in 2011 when nobody else was talking about it. And now it's become a popular topic, which is good. But the connection between thyroid and insulin is still not talked about very much, right? So there may be symptoms that people have that might indicate that both. You mentioned a couple, that exhaustion, the sugar craving. Are there other symptoms that you look at when you're analyzing somebody when they come in to see you for these problems of I'm exhausted in the middle of the afternoon and I can't get my head off the desk, etc.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. We're all again different. How symptoms manifest also is very different for everyone. So definitely, the middle of the day tiredness and that crash. I've been there. I've been there in the corporate world. I needed that coffee, like stat 2 p.m. hit. I need that coffee. But the other is, no matter how much you sleep, you slept for 8 hours or 8 to 10, and I slept still waking up tired. Your brain feels foggy, and especially after meals, your brain is feeling foggy. You're not clear headed. You're gaining weight, and despite, hey, I'm eating less than ever. Everyone is going that. I come across a lot of my clients doing intermittent fasting, and sometimes I'm like, it's a great tool to be used at the right time. It can be helpful, but just eating one meal a day, that can be very stressful for your body, for your thyroid, and then you're still gaining weight. You wonder why. Or even the other pieces, like the extremities feeling really cold, your hands and feet are constantly cold. Again, those symptoms, there's a thyroid sign, and it just it can be so interrelated, the fatigue, the weight gain, the low energy. It could be blood sugar related, it could be thyroid, it could be both. Again, the chicken or the egg, we don't know. It could be both influencing each other. But those are the most common symptoms I see, the energy and the fatigue. But hair loss, but that's very thyroid related to hair loss. Everyone wants a hair. I was losing it at one point and I was like, get stay here, their brittle nails as well, and even feeling like the anxiety, the depression, and even those symptoms you would think are very separate, but they all are interrelated to how well your thyroid functions and how well your blood sugar is. That's like the foundation work that I do with all my clients. If your blood where's what does your blood sugar and how is your thyroid influencing it?
Yeah, I like that. I like that approach, and that's how I look at it too. And also, you mentioned earlier about stress, and if your clientele who are corporate and busy entrepreneurs or executives, whatever, stress is high, and stress is high for everyone right now. The world
Yeah.
is a stressful place, and cortisol levels are climbing. And the intimate connection between thyroid and adrenal, I'd love to address that a little bit. I talk a lot about the fact that we look at thyroid as a thyroid problem, but it's not usually not a it's a functional thyroid problem. It's the symptoms of low thyroid function because even though the body might be producing enough thyroid hormone, it's not activated and it's not getting into the cells. So I'd love to chat a little bit about what you see as that interconnection.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You just hit the nail on its head. Yes, it's never a thyroid issue. It's just a yellow canary in the coal mine, right? Usually your liver. It could be your gut. Especially with Hashimoto's immune related that leads to hypothyroidism, or adrenals as well. And yes, we live in a stressful world. I have a lot of clients in Silicon Valley, and they have stress. It's like stressful days. They have to lay off people, or they have a big team. And I've been through that world, and it's just how life is right now. And unfortunately, our body, as it doesn't reacts the same way, whether we're running away from a tiger or we're just handling a difficult situation or a conversation. The stress, our body, stress is stress. It's very black and white. There are no gray area there. And when it comes to the thyroid and adrenals, again, they're super connected, right? Your cortisol, again, cortisol is not a bad thing. We all need cortisol. It gets such a bad rap, but it's good. It's a hormone that the body produces. We need it to get out of bed. That's what gets us going. It's the what I'm seeing a lot is the rhythm is very dysregulated. It's like super low in the morning when it's supposed to be high when I run the hormone panel, and super high at night when it's supposed to be low. And it's super dysregulated, or they just clearing out the cortisol so fast. They're producing enough, but they're just clearing it out. Your body's just using it up because it's so stressful. And I compare your thyroid and cortisol as the accelerator and the brake. I haven't tried it, but I don't think anyone, if you can, on this thing, can I run the car if I press both? Probably not. If my car is, I'm going to go too far. Physics, will it spin in place? I don't know. I've never tried it. I don't want to try it. But your car's on not gonna move. Similarly, in the body, if your cortisol is constantly high because of stress is driving it, or it could be, high blood sugar, which is a very stressful environment for the body. Your cortisol is high, your thyroid is going to take a back seat because it just thinks we are in a fight or flight state. And thyroid, like, okay, it's cortisol needs to be the shining armor right now. What happens is we are constantly in if you're constantly in a stressful state, if the cortisol is constantly high, your thyroid is always getting sluggish, and that's like, okay, I'm not needed here, and the function reduces, and this again, the domino starts to fall. So adrenals are very, very closely connected. So we do need cortisol for the thyroid to function well, as well. But not a constant state where it's high all the
Right.
time.
Right. And interestingly enough, we sometimes label hormones as good or bad, right? So cortisol bad, insulin bad, but the truth is we die without them. So it's good the Goldilocks. I talk about the Goldilocks situation. The too
Yep.
little is not good, too much is not good, but just right is. And the sad part about cortisol when it's elevated and it does raise your heart rate and raise the blood
Right.
pressure and affect blood sugar, release blood sugar from stores, elevate your blood sugar, cause insulin to go up. There's a whole cascade of things that happen with cortisol. But people get to the point, and we don't know when we cross that no return because a lot of the fatigue symptoms are happening all along because of autoimmune
Yeah.
interactions. But all of a sudden, we're not making enough cortisol. So if you've ever, tested somebody and you think, oh, they're going to be really high, and you test and they're flatlined, it's because they have come through a process of it being too high, and now they can't even make enough, and that's when the real, like, drop dead exhaustion can happen, and we wanna catch people
Mhm.
before they get there. But, the thing that I think about with thyroid, though, is when we have too much cortisol or too little cortisol, that conversion from the bound form of thyroid, which is not active, to the free form of thyroid doesn't happen very well. And then the conversion from T4, more of the what's made and what's, kind of keeping it stored into T3, which is what activates the cells, that conversion doesn't happen very
Mhm.
well. And that's something I see so overlooked
Yeah.
in Western medicine that nobody's testing. In fact, I just talked to somebody today. She goes, oh, yeah, I do. I said, well, what's your T3? Doctor wants me to put me on T4 because my T4 is low. And yes, it sounds low, but
Mhm.
what's going on with your T3? Oh, we don't know. And I'm taking Armour
Yeah.
Thyroid or something, and she wants to switch me to just T4. Like, why do you want? It didn't make sense, right?
Mhm. Yep.
So we have to be looking at all of the factors, like you said. We connect the dots between these two, but everything is interconnected, and the whole specialization thing, right? Go to the gastroenterologist, go to the endocrinologist, go to the thumologist.
No, I'm looking at some blood work from clients where they're on thyroid medication. They don't have antibodies. The thyroid, they're actually more in a hyperthyroid state, and the reverse T3 is super high. Your body's putting the brakes. It's again, I'm like, it's the liver, adrenals, your blood sugar, and your gut, and your liver is just raising the alarm, and the doctor just prescribed medication, which is not doing any good. And to your point, it's not just about giving the thyroid hormone, that which is the inactive T4. It's, can your body convert it? Okay, maybe it's converting it. Can your cells absorb it? That's another of information that we're looking to break down. It's a puzzle piece, what's going on. It's not just even you and I, I'm sure we just are not looking at labs. If it was so easy to interpret and just know what to do, everyone would do it. It's understanding with the symptoms and what could be, is it brain based hypothyroidism? Is it cellular based? Why is the thyroid not functioning? And stress, yes, stress is huge, but there's infections, internal bacterial infections going on that could drive up internal stress.
Yes, yes, and what you said earlier about the reverse T3, right, being high. If somebody sees, if you run a lab on somebody and you see that the free T3 is low and the reverse T3 is high, and we wanna just let's give them T3, right? Why not? Tell us why not.
So so reverse T3 is, as the name says, it's just the opposite of T3. It looks like T3, and for the body, for the cells, it can even bound
Yeah, it just has iodine bound in a different position, that's
different.
all.
It's a, but it doesn't have the same vitality and the same zest that T3 has. It doesn't do that, and the body does that. It's like the brake. The body does that. So when body converts T4 to T3, depending on how much we need, right? So the body does a conversion, and when it sees that, okay, it's a lot of stress going on. There's a lot going on. It's okay. I'm going to stop the conversion because I'm in this fight or flight state where the other cortisol is probably taking the role. I'm going to stop this conversion. So it converts it into reverse T3. And we need some of it. The body needs to rest. We need some reverse T3. But then when it's constantly in that state and a reverse T3 goes out, so it's like your body is envisioning that you are in a lot of stress, and it's just thinks it's you're not, this is not the time to digest the food. This is not the time to do X other thing, run your metabolism or everything else that T3 helps us do. So, and it just converts to reverse T3. And I see that quite a bit. The reverse T3 is high. So that's why it's important to see all the labs and not just TSH or just
Yes,
T4.
yes, and for sometimes when we see that, the T3 is low, free T3, we wanna look at all the possible causes of that, right? And so if it's because there's leaky gut and the gut is a mess, well, we wanna fix the gut because
Yep.
25% of that conversion happens in the gut. If we see it's a sluggish liver, we wanna
Mhm.
fix that. Why is the liver sluggish? We wanna look at the external stressors and reduce the toxic load. So you're right. If it was just a matter of interpreting labs and providing a substance, whether it's a
Mhm.
drug or an herb or a nutrient,
Mhm.
to fix that imbalance, then it would be easy, but it's not because we have to figure out the body's smart and it
Yep.
turns things off when we don't have the capacity, right? When we don't have the reserves to do it. So whenever you see a low T3 and a high reverse T3, and even if you don't test reverse T3, because most of us actually don't test it, you can just know what it's
Yep.
going to be based on the T4 level and the T3. Then you have to look at why, right? Is it a selenium deficiency? Maybe. Well, give them some Brazil nuts and let's test it out.
Yep.
Is it a leaky gut? Is it a gut dysbiosis situation? Those things have to be affected and fixed anyway. Is it a liver thing? Is there too much toxicity? And if you correct all of those, then more than likely that T3 is going to come up because the danger is gone. And
Yep.
now, okay, we can function normally.
And when it comes to the liver, blood sugar, it's so huge because people don't realize it. Your liver plays it's a big role with blood sugar regulation. So that's foundation. Fix your gut, fix your liver, fix your blood sugar, and inflammation, right? And it's never just one thing. Unfortunately, everyone has a little bit of everything going. Um, and there's always a way to fix it, but I think the hardest is the stress and the nervous system
Yeah,
regulation piece, which because that's such it's a mindset piece as well, because while your body needs to feel safe to even and I talk a lot about that, there are stress and not want to go away. We were before we started recording, I was just talking about how, a life has been with a newborn and it's stressful and I'm like, I have to just stop myself spiraling and okay, look at the bigger picture. Look at the bigger picture. Thankful, the grateful, the gratitude practice I'm
gratitude
able to do.
practice, yes, is so important, and that's easy with a newborn, right? You hold the little baby in your arms while they're sleeping, and you go, "Oh, oh, why was I so
Yeah.
upset about this?" Right?
Yeah.
But when they're screaming and yelling and you're trying to, deal with the other child and all this,
Yeah.
it's stressful, and we don't make light of that. We really do need to be addressing all that. But I wanna reverse back to, testing, right? So a lot of times when you go to the doctor with the symptoms of brain fog and low energy and your hair is falling out and they run tests, they have one test that they run for thyroid, which is TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone produced by the pituitary. And then if it's like below 5 or 4.5 or whatever lab ranges they're using, they say you're fine. And then they want to give a prescription for the depression, a prescription for the high cholesterol, a prescription for the constipation. Because, I mean, you have to think in terms that you have to put it all together. If it looks like a thyroid situation, it is. But what I think medicine doesn't recognize is functional thyroid imbalance.
Hmm.
They're like, your thyroid's fine, your pituitary, but is it? Number
Yeah.
one, because I don't think that test really tells. But number two is, yeah, maybe it is, but you're not your cells are not getting the support they're needing from it. So when you do labs on people and you want to look at the thyroid and the blood sugar, what are the bare minimum tests you recommend, and what's the like Cadillac of tests?
Yeah. That's just, I've heard it. It's all in your head. Your TSH is three, maybe like, somebody listening, maybe, this doctor says 3.5. It's all in your head and they send you back home. Just eat less and work out a bit more. You lose the weight. And as you said, some prescriptions for other pieces, right? And maybe they have tested the blood sugar and you say it's fine. It's 95. It's fine. Fasting glucose, it's fine. And but nobody tests them. Okay, 2 hours after breakfast when it could have spiked up to 180 and you could see something is off, right? So we touched upon a few. So when I'm looking at labs, especially for thyroid, we want the full thyroid lab. So you want the TSH, which is, as you said, the pituitary hormone to the thyroid. Hey, produce some hormone. That's just that. We need the free T4. I look at free T3, which are the hormones that are produced by the thyroid after they get the signal. And 70 to 80% of it is T4, which is inactive and a small amount of active, but we talked about, our body will convert it as we need it. So that's why it doesn't produce a lot of T3 as well and get those. I get total too, total T4 and total T3, just to see how much total is the body producing and then what is the free, what's available as well. Because sometimes I'll see if the body is not converting the T4, the total starts looking higher because it starts backing up. Because if a conversion is not happening, we have the TSH, free T4, free T3, total T4, total T3, and then also the reverse. I can say I know what's going to happen, but sometimes it's really, really low too. And sometimes I see super high. Does this hey? When people see it, I'm like, your body is stressed. It's putting the brakes on. You have a hormone. It just helps give we really need to work on the stress. Everyone should get antibodies too, right? Just to rule out if there's an autoimmunity that is behind your hypothyroidism, which is then a gut related issue, an immune related issue. It's not your thyroid. So it's totally separate because but 90 to 95 cases are of hypothyroidism have Hashimoto's behind it, autoimmunity. And they'll slap you a synthroid medication, which is just replacing the hormone. It's doing squat for your gut or your autoimmunity or for your antibodies. And the more antibodies you have, the more inflammation you have. And the more you get one autoimmune condition, you are likely to get one, three times likely to get another one. So yes, the antibodies, TPO and TPG, getting those antibodies as well. So that's a full thyroid panel. Thank you for the reminder. Baby brain.
Yeah, baby brain, because I know that was a big important part for you with Hashimoto's. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. I had Hashimoto's at 25, and again, I talk about the whole gallbladder connection to it. The liver comes in, but and they gave me Synthroid, and off you go. And my antibodies, I remember looking at it, Dr. Ritamarie, it was at like 4,000 or 5,000. It was so high. And I tested, even my endocrinologist, I go, she orders, she like, you don't need to test your antibodies. Once you have Hashimoto's, you'll always have it. I'm like, just test it because I want to see with whatever I'm doing, is it coming down? Now it's in the low hundreds, or like it's come down to double digits, and I'm still working on getting them to below. So it can come down. And when it comes to blood sugar, again, just like TSH is a golden standard, and again, in Western medicine, they just use fasting glucose, which again, is the normal range is pretty wide, but that could just be, I had a holiday week, I had some crazy meals, my fasting glucose could look a little bit
Yeah.
higher than it is. So it's really getting a hemoglobin A1C, which is a more a 3-month mean, like average of how your blood sugar, better indicator of where you are. Also fasting insulin.
Yeah.
That is super important too. And recently been looking at so many labs, apart from those three, when it comes to blood sugar, I also like to look at LDH
Mhm.
and even and the carbon dioxide as well
Mhm.
levels too, because that can also indicate, even though those three other numbers may look optimal, but if I see dysregulation or low LDH and low carbon dioxide, I'm like, maybe the glucose is not really getting into the cells, and it's the lactic acid production, it's not as effective optimized as well. So I started looking at blood sugar from all of those angles, and at a minimum, get your insulin, get your hemoglobin A1C, get your fasting glucose levels. It's otherwise you're just looking at opening credits for a movie and judging the whole
Yeah,
movie of
exactly.
that's what Western medicine is doing. They fasting insulin, they may sometimes get hemoglobin A1C, but they never do insulin because
That's the
before,
piece that gives you like a 3-decade head start on seeing that there's a problem, because
yeah,
the body's good at regulating, and if your
mm,
levels of insulin are high, the blood sugar is gonna look totally normal, the A1C is gonna look totally normal. What's not gonna look normal is your postprandial glucose curves, right?
yeah,
And that's where getting
the
CGMs. So
CGM,
let's talk about CGMs a little bit.
mm, yeah, I absolutely love that tool, and it can sometimes be stressful. If I don't know if you were like me, like data obsessed. Every time I eat, I'm like, what's checking my app, what's going on? But I'm like, just use it as information. Like every 6 months, get it for a month to see how you're doing,
Yeah.
and because we all have our own bio individuality, right? How foods react, how I break down certain foods is very different how you break down. And just knowing which foods really spikes your blood sugar can give you so much more information of, okay, this my body does not like this, or it's just spiking the blood sugar, so you can regulate that and identify those foods. And for me, when I'm not wearing it right now because with breastfeeding, put anything into my mouth when I get hungry. um, but when I wore the CGM for a couple of months, being Indian, lentils was such a big part of my meal. And every time I would eat lentils, blood sugar spiked to 170, 180. And I was like, okay, obviously I'm having some grains, and I mean, I'm balancing it with good animal protein, but still it would spike. And I'm like, okay, bye bye to lentils, or, in very small quantities or occasionally. So I would not have made that change if I had not seen that data on the CGM. And it's a healthy food. I'm not saying that lentils are very healthy. Soak and sprout them, and it had provides a lot of fiber and a lot of B vitamins. But for me personally, the body was not liking it. Again, with my autoimmunity, again, lentils and oxalates play a role as well, how we process it. So that's why I love CGM, of getting that very individualized data of how a certain food is working for you. And you can also relate it to how you're feeling. Start making that connections. Oh, I had a huge blood sugar spike, and then the crash came after, and you can see it on your on the chart that they provide, and you know exactly what you ate and log your food. And that's the best way to change behaviors, when you see it. And exactly. And when you're in a stressful situation, even though you haven't eaten anything, but you're having that stressful conversation, you can see the blood sugar spike. And, people, my clients will be like, I exercise and my blood sugar spiked, which is good. That's good stress. That's what we want. We're teaching the body that the resilience of going up and down. That's good stress. But information can be so empowering, as long as they don't like obsess over it.
Yes, absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. The
Yeah.
stress and then the cortisol levels make it go higher. And I deal with that a lot with my clients. So to wrap up, a lot of the people, most of the people that listen to our podcast and watch our YouTube channel are health practitioners, holistic health practitioners. And some of them are coming from allopathic medicine, just starting to dig in. And some of them are health coaches and naturopaths and a whole wide range of things. So, where would you, in closing, like if you had a couple of little bits of advice for practitioners who are like, yeah, I haven't been thinking about that connection. Where do they start?
But, just first for me, listen to your clients or patients, like listen to their stories. Sometimes they give you bits and pieces that don't even come out in the form. I get the most information during sessions because I'm like, wait a minute, you didn't tell me, you didn't put that in the form. So listen to your client to the symptoms, that will come a lot. And then really looking at them, I think everything is connected to everything else. So, like, really looking at the whole picture. So, yeah, for me, my niche and what I specialize is the thyroid. So, most of my clients have a thyroid. They know they have a thyroid issue, but I'm like, okay, why did it happen in the first place? What happened? So, really connecting those dots between the foundation. So, thyroid is just the tip of the iceberg. So, start looking at what's underneath the liver, the adrenals, the gut, until we work on these pieces, nothing else will matter. And the stress piece. So yeah, so those are my advice. Just start looking at all the data, start listening to your clients so you can really connect the dot, help them connect the dots and empower them so they can make the changes, because that's the hardest work. And I tell my clients, I wish I could do the work for you. I wish I could. I just can't.
You just can't, but you can identify areas that they can do the work, and it's up to them to do it. And the more you know about how it all connects and how to put it back in balance, and we don't go from allopathic medicine, which kind of is a this for that approach, which is you have this condition, here's the medication, you have this condition, here's the process. It's less of a this for that. It's more of a what's the interconnectedness and what are all the imbalances that are producing this symptomatic picture. And I think that for the most part, if we come from allopathic medicine and we say, oh, we're going to do holistic medicine, we're going to do nutrition, but you keep the allopathic mindset of this for
Mhm.
that, you're just going to be trading drugs for herbs or
Herbs, yeah.
foods, right? And it doesn't work that way in the body. The body is this interconnected set of symptoms and systems. And every little thing you see on a lab or on a health intake form should be triggering your database in your brain to go, oh, let me think about this. This might be a problem. This might be an underlying thing. Let me ask about these things. And then you get the interconnectedness. And it's really important for us to do that.
That's how I came, such the more labs I see, the LDH and carbon dioxide, the labs, the blood sugar looks fine, but they have all the symptoms of hypoglycemia, like the reactive hypoglycemia. And they're like, yes, I'm feeling after the meal, they have the crash and they're not, and they have the cravings. And I start looking at the LDH, it's always depressed, even functionally depressed. And the carbon dioxide is always low. I'm like, they're very acidic and then it's not going to work well. So it's just making those connections of what could be going on, even though the labs, other labs look very optimal.
Yeah. And the labs are
Yeah.
good. And it's a matter of knowing which labs to run, to go beyond the conventional little box and run the other labs that give more of a functional look, and to know how to deal with optimal versus lab range. That's a big thing too. So, um, thank you so much for being here. Um,
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. We'll put any links you have. Do you have any particular websites, social media that people can check out?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, so they folks, if you can find me there, at underscore Div Gupta, and the labs that I just talked about, the thyroid lab, they have a free guide because I want everyone to be feel empowered and be your own CEO. So if you go to my website, you can grab this free guide where it lists all the symptoms, at least most of the symptoms of hypothyroidism, which can be plenty because it
Yeah,
affects every organ in your body.
that's right.
And and all the 6 labs that I mentioned and the optimal ranges, not just the standard,
Yes.
the optimal ranges are in there. So pull out your labs, pull out that guide and see where you are. And maybe you are not optimal and that's why you have all the symptoms, even though your doctor is saying fine.
Yeah.
So
Great.
grab that guide. Yeah. So that's where people can find me.
Thank you. Thank you. So I work a lot with this area, as you know, and as our listeners know. And I think that it is overlooked and we need to put it together. And we can't just take the conventional wisdom, so to speak, about thyroid and about adrenals and having them be separate problems. We really need to be looking at the connections, right? And that's where I believe that we all should understand how the body works and how the hormones interconnect with each other. So we also have resources out there. Check the show notes. I have a thyroid function guide and a cardiovascular lab testing that has all these labs in it. So feel free to go there and figure that out and test those out.
You mentioned something that's triggered um, the adrenal, especially when we get into perimenopause and menopause, they wonder why the thyroid, they start getting more, feeling more thyroid because your ovaries retire and your adrenals take over and blood
They're
sugar just went
tired by
cortisol.
then.
They're too tired by them to take on more responsibilities and your thyroid starts raising the
Yep,
alarm. And that's
it's
when a
very
lot of
common.
women
A lot of
comment
women
to get
do experience it
mm,
either in pregnancy, right after pregnancy, or as they go through menopause, wherever there's
menopause.
a
So
big hormonal shift. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
absolutely.
Thank you for pointing that
So
out. It's
yeah,
super
yeah,
important.
just it's the estrogen because that's why when after because I just went through it, the estrogen tanks right after giving birth, and it's almost like menopause. That's when a lot of people feel all the
If
hypothyroidism
Yep.
until it takes time to balance it off. So yeah, don't ignore your adrenals and your thyroid.
Nope. Super important that we get under control and we get out of this sympathetic dominance overload that's
Mhm.
basically destroying health and being aware and looking at our clients and seeing, are they in this mode and how do we help them to transition out of that mode? They don't need another supplement. They don't, well, not that they don't, they do probably do need another supplement or herb. What they need is that lifestyle, that attitude shift, the ability to say, okay, I need to slow down, right? I can't do it all. I'm not Wonder Woman, Wonder Man. So, as functional health practitioners, we are constantly at the forefront and we're the future of healthcare. I firmly believe that this functional healthcare is the future of medicine. We're not going to continue with this symptom driving, symptomatic relief stuff. So we need to really focus on this. And if you've enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and check out our other videos on metabolic health and hormone balance next. See you next time.